Every year, ESPN broadcasts the NFL Draft, and this year, things were a little bit different. Because of social distancing guidelines, the broadcast had to be done remotely, but have no fear, there were still big boards and mock drafts. I had a beer, wings. Jerry Jones looked like a supervillain who was going to launch 2 separate missiles, one at the San Andreas Fault and one at Hackensack, New Jersey, because he knew that Superman could only catch one. And while it was sad that fans couldn't boo Roger Goodell, at least ESPN gave us this.
Let's hear from you right now. Oh, come on, guys. You can do better than that. Let's go. Oh, Strahan, come on, let's go. Come on, you guys can do better than that. All right, keep it coming. Wow, even the virtual boos are good.
The commish doing his best robot impression notwithstanding, the draft this year obviously had some severe broadcast limitations. No screaming fans, no blindingly flashy lights, no chime. Seriously? How hard is that? After all, the broadcast wasn't terrible. The team up with the NFL Network was honestly refreshing, even if the lack of Todd McShay was notable. Get better, Todd. Daniel Jeremiah, Kurt Warner, and Michael Irvin all brought unique perspectives and flair. A welcome distraction from the worn-out Mel Kiper Jr. shtick we've been hearing for the last 35 years. The broadcast was as smooth as could be expected with the literal hellscape that's going on in the outside world. You know, as long as I didn't do something stupid like focus on deeply personal tragedies that no fan would ever need to know about.
He was then struck and killed by a driver who reportedly fled the scene of the accident. His father was 26 at the time, and he has been a remarkable story talking about the things that he went through as a kid. He related to that sometimes in Washington, D.C., walking over dead bodies. For those that don't know the story, Orban took his life on July 13th, 2013.
Oh.
ESPN has had this issue for a while, and it's not just with the draft. If you've watched ESPN at all over the years, you might be familiar with the My Wish segment. I mean, these are harmless enough. Through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a child with a horrible illness meets their favorite athlete. You know, they do some sports-related events with them. They're pretty much just uplifting and give athletes the chance to show off how nice they are. And even if you're someone who thinks that's exploitive in any way, at least the Make-A-Wish Foundation is an actual charity that seems to do a good job. So I have no problem with ESPN giving extra publicity to this organization, and the segments are usually pretty well done. ESPN has put similar segments in other broadcasts. For instance, during NFL Live, they did a segment on Rob Gronkowski and Robbie Barnicoat, a young Patriots fan with severe epilepsy. It helped soften up that roided up frat boy persona that Gronk had built around him, and sometimes seeing the gentler side of people who literally look like Olympic gods can help us relate to them. The USC football team did something similar back in the day. Then Coach Pete Carroll, who was still old back then, famously became close with a young, legally blind fan, Jake Olson, who had lost his vision to cancer, and he actually then walked on to the Trojans football team as a long snapper. These stories are fine. They're uplifting, they have a heart to them, the segments are well produced, and while they may have an upsetting start, they usually wrap up with this resounding note of positivity. And typically they're either in the context of something like SportsCenter or NFL Live, these professional, studio-heavy productions, and they don't really go for that, hey, let's just hang out and toss back some claws vibe. But then you have things like College Game Day, ESPN's popular tailgating pregame show for college football games that air Saturday mornings. You know, the perfect place to hear about how someone's little sister did a backflip into a sinkhole. The game day vibe is supposed to have that rowdy college tailgate thing going for it. You know, cornhole, grilled wieners, underage drinking. It's supposed to be a big party. There's rowdy fans, plastered and slathered in face paint. Marching bands play the fight songs. Cheerleaders ruffle their pom-poms. It's supposed to be an event to pump people up for the games that day. I mean, it even ends with an 84-year-old man putting on a giant furry costume. Or sometimes dancing like a leprechaun.
Hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, hey, hey.
All he kept saying was, my mom's in the street, my mom's in the street.
Patricia died that morning at a local hospital.
How are these two things a part of the same broadcast? I don't get it. And I don't mean to come off as insensitive towards these people and their tragedies. I mean, they've gone through some truly terrible things in their lives, and that resiliency is definitely to be commended. It's just Segments like this completely derail the momentum of the show, and it really doesn't get anyone excited. Unless you're super into like sibling death or something. In fact, on the occasions when they don't go directly to commercial after the segment, the crowd is just kind of left there, silent. It can be brutal. But then there's the draft. The last few years it's cultivated a party tone. Despite starting out as just a business meeting that took place in the back of a hotel where nerds wrote on chalkboards, it now takes place in various concert halls across the country. Last year, they held it in Nashville, literally one of the biggest party cities in America. So why are we being inundated with these depressing stories during our fun time sports programming? Especially when they're thrown together on like an infographic or a quick story by Trey Wingo.
Scott was in a one-man car crash on the highway that trip and was killed in that crash. And Henry Ruggs celebrates his honor throwing up that 3 every time you see him score a touchdown.
What's the uplifting end? The guy got drafted and is gonna make money? Yay? Does that bring back someone's deceased loved one? Is that a piece of information that is supposed to change how fans view the pick? Are we supposed to root for them now? Were we not supposed to root for them before? Why are these in here? Well, the answer to me seems to be drama. You see, for some reason, ESPN seems to think that these stories bring a validity to their programming. They aren't just showing silly sports events. They aren't just men in suits talking about silly sports events. These are real human stories, dramatic stories. But is anyone tuning in for these stories? No, I don't think so. So it didn't take long for viewers to pick up on this weird trend. Twitter and Reddit in particular started roasting ESPN. The most famous example of this was when Clemson wide receiver T. Higgins was drafted by the Bengals in the beginning of the second round. For some reason, ESPN thought that we all needed to know that his mom is a recovering drug addict. It should be noted that Higgins didn't care about the information being put out there, and that's great. I mean, he has nothing to be ashamed of, and neither does his mother. She's overcome a tremendous struggle, and she honestly should be commended for it. But why did we even have to know this? It's just crazy to me. It's not going to change my opinion about T. Higgins as a player. It's not going to change anyone's opinion. It's not going to make Bengals fans like him any more or less in the long run. If he catches touchdowns, he'll be popular. If he drops the ball a bunch, he's going to be run out of town. I mean, are Bengals fans really going to say to themselves, well, it's great that Higgins just caught another touchdown, but do you know if his mom had any deeply personal tragedies before I start clapping? It's completely irrelevant. Mr. Irrelevant. People were clearly over it while it was happening. Somebody should have snuck into Trey Wingo's ear and been like, psst, Trey just read some stats. We don't need to know that Tuco Salamanca gave Frankie Football's dog a Colombian necktie. I just don't know who this is possibly for. I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but with literally everything that's going on in the world right now, did people really need this? Apparently ESPN recognized their mistake and one of their executives made a statement. I heard the criticism. It's not unfair. It's something we should self-scout for the future. It's something we can examine. We didn't want to be Debbie Downer, but we wanted to show how some of the players overcame major issues in their lives. Maybe how Javon Kinlaw drew inspiration from growing up homeless, or a player overcoming a family suicide to achieve his dream. So on the surface, it seems like they learned their lesson. But, like I pointed out before, this isn't the first time the network has done this. And to do it when so many people at home are struggling with the effects of COVID-19, people look forward to the draft as a distraction. And this year, above all else, we needed that distraction. But instead, ESPN managed to make us feel worse. And unfortunately for them, people noticed. Maybe they'll learn from this. Truly learn from this. Then again, ratings were up like 37% this year, so who knows? I love watching the NFL draft, and these are the moments that we want to see. Young men who work their way onto a roster spot, accomplishing a lifelong dream. Sure, there are dramatic moments like when a superstar doesn't get picked for a really, really long time. You have that dreading pit in your stomach, asking yourself, when's he gonna go? When's he gonna go? But that's more reveling in his misfortune. For me, the draft has never really been about those moments. They're more about this. And this. And this. So, ESPN, if anyone is watching, which I'm sure you're definitely watching a channel with like 100-something subscribers, just please stop with the tragedy porn. Nobody wants it. And when you do it, you could at least make it like a full segment with some production value. I don't need Trey Wingo to tell me that someone's dad got skeletonized by the Green Goblin. Oh, and please, can we get the draft chime back? Thank you to everyone who watched this video. I've recently decided to put some actual work into this channel, so hopefully you liked it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And you can share this where these things are shared. This channel isn't going to be just about the NFL. I'm going to work through different topics as they come up. I also recently started doing Twitter and Instagram for the first time, so if you could give me a follow there, I'm still sorting things out, but that would be greatly appreciated. All right, gotta go. Bye.